Hey everybody, it's Maria from What's the Story with Maria. How's it going? Welcome to our show. We meet here every week, every Tuesday from 9 to 10 Eastern. So depending on what part of the country or the world, we have listeners from all over the world as well. That's what time it is in New York. I'm actually in New Jersey tonight. I'm in beautiful Cliffside Park, New Jersey. And Leo, why don't you hit our promo?
I'm a big fish in a small pond. The day's free and the night's long. I create my own reality. Who I am is fine with me. I'm as brave as I wanna be. Who I am is fine with me. It's who I am. It's who I am.
So, hello again, everyone. As I said, we're so glad you're here. Our first in, of course, Danielle from D's Enlightened Edits. Hi, Maria and Leo. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday to you, sweetheart. I got to tell you, Danielle from D's Enlightened Edits is not just our friend. She's an amazing spiritual medium. And we don't say that lightly. She every time I talk about her, I add a new adjective, but she is a delightful, intelligent, thoughtful healer. I would put Danielle under healer. I had a session yesterday that I bought my sister for Christmas from D's Enlightened Edits. I had a quantum session maybe right before Christmas, and then I also had a spirit animal reading, which was mind-blowing. Both incredible. And when I use the term life-changing, I am not just saying that like people say, oh, that was life-changing. I mean, it was life-changing because I felt like it shifted so much in me, and it made me understand my family history and made me understand my spiritual history and my past life stuff. If you're into any of that, you're going to love Danielle. And oh my God, speaking of which, my cousin Rena Cugnali-Berge has joined in. She also had a session with Danielle, as did my Aunt Anna around Christmas. And Rena Cugnali, I'm here, but I might fall asleep during the show. Don't take offense. What? It's the pain meds. Oh, Rena has a good excuse tonight. She had knee surgery, actually a knee replacement, right? So the big stuff. And she was in surgery yesterday. She was still in recovery last night at this time. And so now she's home and she's recouping. So, Rena, I am so thrilled that you're here, and I'm so happy you're here. So, okay, let me just see who else is typed. So I'm glad you're here, sweetheart. So I was talking about Danielle, and my sister and I, well, it was my sister's session, but she was like, why don't you stay on? So it was just beautiful and just amazing things. So I can't recommend Danielle of D's Enlightened Edits enough. If you are someone that always wants to look within and without, Danielle's your girl. You're going to expand in both ways. I can promise you that. Okay, Barry Silber has joined us. Philly, you're living in Philly now, Barry. I see that. Barry is a huge supporter of the arts, a great music lover. Barry, you're going to really love our guest tonight. I know Barry and I bonded many years ago at the duplex over our love of Laura Nero, who just was incredible. So Barry and I have that in common. You are going to love our guest, Joanie. She's amazing. Singer-songwriter. She is going to be joining us very, very soon. And Barry, you're going to be smitten with Joanie and her beautiful voice. Okay, so one of the things I wanted to talk about before we do bring the beautiful Joanie on is all this rage, right, over the Barbie movie. Now, personally, I was not a kid that played with Barbies. I was more of a G.I. Joe girl, if you know what I mean. They'll just be code. But my sister and my cousin Rena were avid Barbie girls. And my mother and my Aunt Anna, my Ziana, used to make clothes for the Barbies. What do you like? I can't hear you. You muted, Leo.
No, I'm not muted. I'm laughing so hard.
Why? Because I'm more of a G.I.
Joe girl.
Well, I mean, that is like, that's like a little code for
I played
things.
with, in the circles that I played with, G.I. Joe always hung out with Barbie. I mean,
well, he did because he's hot. But yeah, I didn't really play with the Barbies. But as I got older, I actually started to really love the doll collecting world. And I collect bobbleheads, so I have a ton of sports bobbleheads. But for many years, because I worked for FAO Schwartz, I used to collect certain Barbies. And then I sold them over the years, as you move from one apartment to the other and you decide. But Jared, our friend Jared Felipe, he does a show called Life in Plastic on YouTube, and it's all about Barbie doll collection and other dolls as well. But so he had a Barbie party. They all, look how cute they are. They all went to see the movie and then had a party afterwards. And what I love about this whole thing is that the whole country, for some reason yesterday, felt like it was on the same page. I know the Oppenheimer movie as well did really well, but I feel like since before COVID, we didn't have this kind of excitement over a movie. And now everything's really switched to indoors, Netflix, HBO Max, all that stuff. And there's nothing wrong with that. I love sitting on a nice comfy couch and watching that and being able to freeze it and all that. In pink. But there's really nothing like going to the movies with a bunch of your friends, getting some popcorn, and really getting the total experience. So okay, I'm sorry, but I just think this is the cutest thing ever. I just saw this today on Instagram, and I had to screenshot and send it to Leo. How cool is that guy? I love a guy that can not only wear pink and do it well, but also is a feminist and supports the female empowerment movement. That is really a big deal to me. I was talking to someone today who's a dad, and he has daughters. And just the way he was talking about his daughters just warmed my heart. Like, I love those kind of people. And last week we had David Foley Jr., and he was talking about, he was doing a show about the man who wrote The Wizard of Oz, Frank Baum. Mm-hmm. And in the early 30s, when he wrote all that, all his books had female protagonists. And ironically, they were banned because of it originally. Isn't that something? So from what I hear, I haven't seen the Barbie movie. I don't know if anybody has, but I'm dying to see it because from what I hear, it's really cool, super female empowerment stuff. And it's not what everybody thinks it is. So what joy that a lot of us are going in that direction to keep lifting each other up,
And she's always been progressive. I mean, her way, and in certain ways, she's always been progressive. Barbie's always been like, go do you, go be you, go do this. Barbie had how many careers? 50 careers or something? And now I think what they're doing is they're maybe adjusting the narration for the you go girls of this generation and how it works. Yeah. That's what I understand. I haven't seen it. It's not a Marvel movie. I probably won't be first in line for the premiere, but I'll watch it.
No, I just think it's fun, and it's a whole new generation, of enjoying certain things, and I think that's really, really special. So, and I love our friend Jared. He does a show. I don't know how often he does it, but if you just go to YouTube and type in Life in Plastic, mm-hmm. and then like a / Jared. His last name is Mihares, so it's Mihares. And he always has guests on from across the country. There was just a big Barbie convention. I just love the joy behind it. That's what I'm about. Whether you collect,
his collection is amazing.
I've been to his home. It's spectacular.
Wow.
I mean, Michael, his husband, made all these beautiful, incredible cases mm-hmm. that he has all these dolls, and he keeps them in. They're pristine. And it's just, and the clothes, he has different clothes in different little cabinets.
And he's part of Your America.
Yes, he is. We did I wrote a song a couple years ago called This Is My America. It's a song about immigration. And we just recently called upon our friends and said, if you are from another country, or you have your first or second or even third generation, and you want to share your photos of your immigrants that first came over to this country, and then your family now. And Jared was part of that. He is from the Philippines. So it's just I just love how beautiful the story of of all of us is, and how we all come together, and we're all creative people. I was telling Joanie earlier, I was talking to her yesterday, how our audience is just this wonderful collection of artists and creatives, and we just all share ideas, and we all lift each other up. So let's say hello to some more people. Carmina Del Ano is here. Hi, Carmina. How are you? Jill Crozian is here. Is that your friend?
Jill Crozian is a friend of mine that I met while listening to our friends on WFMU.org, Kashina's Jungle Room Beneath the Underground with John Pietero and Laurie Towers. And Jill Crozian is a rockin' lady from the Lower East Side.
Oh, God.
Back in the day. And I've heard her album. She's got a song that...
Jill, why don't you come on the show? Why don't we talk and have you on the show? I think I'm pretty sure that August is pretty full up. I have to look at next week. But August is pretty full. But maybe we can have you come on in September.
That would be fun, Jill.
Yeah. Some months I have like all this space. And then other months it's just like... whoosh, fills up super quick. There's a lot going on this month. I also want to shout out our friend Mario Cantone. Mario, right. Mario and I went to high school together. We've been amazing friends for many, many years. My God, since the 80s. And he is doing so well. He's was on Sex and the City years ago. Now he's on Just Like That. He's one of the main characters, Anthony Marinelli. And Marantino. I'm sorry, I think it's Marantino. I know, Anthony Marantino. That's it. And anyway, I was talking to him the other day, and we're going to try to have him on the show really soon. It's just that there's a writer's strike and a SAG strike right now. So a lot of things are on hold. But and this doesn't fall under that category. So we're not crossing any lines. We support our WGA friends and our SAG friends. I am SAG myself. So we just wanted to put that out there. Lynn Portis Genius has joined us. I was watching her today. She went live. She was in Long Island playing for Alex, who's out there. One of our friends who is he's handicapped, but he is so productive and amazing. And he just started acting in Krista Piro's new series, Gavons. So, and he's funny as funny can be, and he's great. So shout out to Alex and his beautiful mom, Janet, out in Long Island. They did great work in the Gavons second season there.
Those looks he was given in that scene. That was
so
really
funny.
Good actor.
It's really funny. Yeah, so Lynn was out there today playing for him, as she often does, and she went live. Yeah, Alex is great. Okay, so listen, everybody, behave yourselves. Now, everybody here... We know Mandar is frisky, but everybody else here is wonderful. But I do want to let you know that we're going to bring on our friend Joanie Pallatto any second. But I want you to, if you have questions you want to ask Joanie, if you anything, she is from, well, she lives in Chicago now. I think she's from Ohio originally. But we're going to bring on the beautiful Joanie Pallatto and welcome her. Let's give her a huge, what's the story with Maria, welcome. Yay! How are you, honey?
Oh, thank you so much, Maria. And hi, Leo. Thanks for having me. This is no accident.
Yes, no, it's no accident.
I was going to play that since we talked about it. It's one of my favorite. It's going to be my new theme song.
Oh, Accidental Melody? It should be.
Mm-hmm. It's wonderful.
Fascinating symphony, a mystery.
And que bilingual, Miss Joanie. I love the Spanish in this.
Melody, hiding right in front of me. A mere reflection of a dream. Accidental melody, quite a new discovery. The symmetry, making history.
Beautiful. So if you don't know Joanie, now you know. Joanie Pallatto, everybody. That is her beautiful sound. And Joanie, I know it's jazz. It's kind of some Latin fusion jazz going on there, but you don't really sound like anybody else, which I love.
You know what? That's the greatest compliment you could ever tell a singer.
It's the truth. Yeah.
You wanna have your own voice. You want to sound like you.
Yeah. I mean, I was listening to you. Sometimes I say, who's that person remind me of? But you don't. You have your own thing going on. I love it.
That's good. That's really good to hear. Thank you so much for saying that. Because, you know, you listen sometimes to singers and you're like, yeah, I really like their music, but if I heard this person on the radio or whatever, I would know who it is.
Right.
So to say that you have an individual voice is so important, and thank you for saying that.
Absolutely, it's true. And this particular piece has, like I said, a Latin jazz fusion thing going on. I personally love that style. Like, to me, that always gets me moving. I love all of, you know, like I just love all the percussion that goes, the subtle percussion. Lots of times it has the subtle percussion that I love. But you also you're working on that particular one. That's with a guitarist, right? Your guitarist is on there for
yes.
you?
Well, see, Farid Haq is the guitarist, and he co-produced the record with me. And I've known Farid for, probably over 30 years. We've been working together. And this is my fourth album of all original music, Maria.
Wow.
So I'm really happy about that. I have lots of other albums. I'm fortunate to have been able to release a lot of records. My husband, Sparrow, and I have a record label called Southport Records. And we've always focused on releasing Chicago greats, the jazz greats from Chicago, like Willie Pickens and Von Freeman and Von's brother George Freeman, who I think Leo was listening to a song that I recorded with George. We might hear a little bit of that later.
Wow.
But
So now Chicago. This is a specific Chicago company. It's mostly Chicago musicians, right? Which I love. We haven't I don't think, Leo, in our 6 years, I don't think we've really had a lot of Chicago musicians on, and so I'm so delighted about that. And also, I know just from talking to a lot of my friends that work out there that Chicago has an amazing music scene, right? Like a amazing live music scene.
It does, and you know, I sort of got distracted. But originally, you were talking about the Latin music, and you asked me about Farid.
Yes.
And I did want to add a few things to that conversation because he's such an amazing artist. He's such a great musician. He plays with such elegance and style, and really any form of music. I mean, Farid is a great classical musician. He's always playing his acoustic guitar, which he calls classical guitar, which I think is cool. And I was so drawn to that sound, and I think that has informed a lot of the music on this current album, Accidental Melody, knowing that I would be recording with him.
Right.
It's nice to have that kind of collaboration, you know?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And to have a partner, a musical partner that can bring ideas when we would get together and rehearse before we recorded the music. We would rehearse and we'd work out the arrangements and the keys, and he would have such perspective on things that maybe I never even thought of doing something that way. Like, for example, on my last record, My Original Plan, we did a song that I had originally written as a swing tune. And he said, "Oh, let's try this as in a Latin groove." And I never thought of that, and it just completely changed the whole feel and the whole meaning almost of the song. So to have someone that you can trust to say, "Let's try this."
Yeah, but also it also says a lot about you, because I find that, you know, not everybody is open to changing things. You know, a lot of writers go to musicians and say, this is what I got, this is what I need, and they're not open at all to change. You know, they almost find it as an insult sometimes. I am like you. I love the flow. That's why I love to collaborate, because I bring something to the table, and if something blows a different way, then I'm like, oh. Then I'm thinking, maybe I should rewrite that line. Or, you know what, I never thought of that song this way, so maybe the way I sing it is different. So I personally love collaborations, but not everybody does. I think you have to be a certain type of person to appreciate that.
Well, and that's true not only of music.
Yeah, 100%.
Just in life, just listening to what the other person has to say, instead of just talking right through a conversation,
Yeah.
That's something that is it's important, especially these days.
Yeah.
I mean, we all want to be together. We all want to relate and share our experiences with each other.
Yeah.
And maybe some people don't.
Yeah, you know what? Well, there are lots of different types of artists, and some artists are kind of solo. They're soloists in that sense that they like to be lifted up by others, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's no judgment in it. And they prefer to be in that center light. And then there's some artists that really enjoy the collaboration, and it's almost like a dance, a musical dance. And
nice. That's a nice
yeah. When I was looking at you and Farid and listening, but without listening, when I just saw the pictures that came up, I was like, oh, I bet they're friends. That's nice. Yeah. I could feel it. I could feel the energy and the respect. The respect between two people. And then when I heard it, I'm like, oh, well, that makes total sense. That's really, it's a dance.
It is a dance. It is a dance. And just to have that kind of collaboration, like we were saying, we haven't really written any music together. But I think that the contributions Farid makes with ideas and arrangements and, like I said, grooves and all that, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I think everybody, I think the key for me as a listener as well as a writer is that everybody's good at different things, right? So I feel like we don't all have to be good at the same thing. We don't have to be good at all of it. Like, how wonderful that some people are better at different things. And then people that arrange, like Lynn Portis, who's on right now, who said, beautiful, Joanie. She is my one of my best friends, and she's also my musical director, my main musical director. But, what she is like, one of the things that she's amazing at, I can take a song that I've written with someone else and bring it to her, and it's what the arrangement. She hears things a certain way. And I just love that. I love people that take risks and try different things.
Well, and it's interesting, too, because I know you write songs. You're a songwriter. Yeah. And also you sing standards and covers.
Of course, yeah.
Songs. So when you think about bringing something new to a standard, I mean, Tony Bennett, right?
Right.
I mean, he's going to remain as one of the greatest interpreters of the Great American Songbook ever.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad you brought him up, because I found out something about him this week that I didn't know, that I think is great and worth just mentioning. So he was not just an amazing singer and interpreter of songs, and his career was incredible. It spanned like 70 decades, I think they said. Yeah. 7 decades, 70 years. But he was also a philanthropist, and he donated so much money to the arts. He also opened a school in New York, but he didn't name it after himself. He named it after Frank Sinatra. So the Frank Sinatra School, who one of my students at the community center in down on 13th Street, where I teach there on Thursdays, he goes to the Frank Sinatra School. And I didn't know that was Tony Bennett's funding. Wow. So, look at how many, and this young person is so grateful to be at that school and is flourishing. And I think, wow, like one person that loved music, that continued to do it and found all this joy in it, is spread it to so many others. And that person is going to spread it to so many others. It's just like, it goes on and on and on, the ripple effect of music and collaborating. Yeah, it really is. Yeah. Now, you have 4 albums, right, Joanie?
Actually, I have 13, I think.
What?
Yeah, 4 albums of original music.
That's a lot. Yeah. That's a lot.
That's a lot. That's a lot for such a young 13-year-old, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, you really started early. So
14. No, I'll tell you. My first record was called Whisper Not. It was a black vinyl LP.
Wow.
In 1986. With a lot of standards on it, and I also had met my husband at that time, Bradley Parker Sparrow, who's a pianist and a wonderful, amazing composer in his own right. We've recorded a few records together of mostly his original music that I also contribute to. So we have that nice collaboration as a married couple as well.
That's beautiful. Now, how does that? I know for some people being in the same business. I'll wait till yeah. So for some couples, because we talk about this quite a bit. A lot of our listeners are couples in the same business, but. So for some people, it works out beautifully, and other people that are creative, they're like, "Oh God, I don't want my partner to be in the same business as me. That would make me crazy."
Right.
Did you meet as individuals, or were already making music and then came together, or did you start making music together?
No, we met. We met at a No Nukes benefit. I was singing and he was playing, and he was doing sound, and he's always doing a million different things. He's one of those kind of people that just has it all covered. So he had, I joined his band. It was the first time that I had ever sung original music because he only plays his music. He's a composer. He doesn't want any outside influences. In terms of playing someone else's music, he's self-taught.
Wow.
Which I've learned as much from Sparrow, being self-taught and getting into that kind of flow and that kind of vibe. I'm the educated one. I have the music degree. But like I said, I've learned as much from him as I learned in any music school. So that's
and I'm sure he's learned from you.
It works both ways.
It really does.
We started together. I was singing in his band, but he always had a recording studio. He always had a little studio on the side. And that's when we met and connected and became a couple and got married in 1982. We started Southport Records together, and we've got, my record is, here's my record. I know Leo's got it.
Oh, I love it, yeah.
But it's a 154 in the catalog. So we have 154 records in our Southport catalog.
Wow, that's a lot.
Very proud of that. Yeah,
that's quite a collection.
Of, like I said, not all our records, of the other artists that we recorded.
Are they mostly jazz artists?
And they're mostly jazz artists. Yeah. And I'm very proud and happy to say that these are also deep friendships with these musicians in the Chicago area that we've worked with for so many years.
Yeah, well, one of the speaking of jazz, one of the great jazz performers we had on a few weeks ago was Danny Lerman, who's an amazing sax player,
amazing musician.
And he's touring. I think he's in Indonesia now, if I'm not mistaken.
He does tour a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, he tours quite a bit, and he was just going on starting a whole new thing. Now, I do. Would like to bring up the reason that I know you.
This is a perfect transition. Yes.
Okay, if it's okay with you. Go ahead.
Absolutely. We are connected because of my dear friend Ralph Lampkin, who passed away recently on June 24th. I've been friends with Ralph for easily 40 years. He's a champion of so many artists in the business, and it's funny because if you look at his Lampkin Music Group page, he says he loves his life is show business. And it sounds so much like Ralph, because that was his passion, to work with artists. I would say mostly cabaret artists and jazz artists, and promote their careers and record and work with them. And I never had anybody like Ralph that could be in the studio with me, or just talk with me on the phone and listen to one of my songs and have tears in his eyes and be so excited and so happy for me or for any artist that he was working with. He was a very special person. So big shout out to Ralph. He's got, I know you're putting up some different, Leo's putting up some different things about Ralph, but there's a wonderful obituary on BroadwayWorld.com. Stephen Mosher's the editor of BroadwayWorld.com, and the wonderful Marilyn Lester wrote this wonderful memoriam to Ralph. And I said, Ralph would have loved the press. And you'd have to know him to understand that he would love the press and his obituaries and his memoriams and all the people that are celebrating his life. So, as I said earlier, Maria, it is a celebration of someone's life.
Yeah, it really is. And he was in touch with me. He's actually got a hold of me because he wanted to have a few of you on the show. It was you, right? Danny Lerman, Amanda McBroom.
Yeah.
He had the last thing he sent me was DC Anderson, who I'm going to reach out to. But so it was just 2 days before he passed that we were literally emailing each other.
Yeah.
But what you said, and I didn't know him very well at all, but I really like his love for you folks was what I loved. I was like, wow, he really cares about these people. He's not just, like here throwing something this way. He really cares about these people. Yeah. So, and then I was speaking with Scott Barberino, who's a mutual friend who managed the Iridium for many years, and I was speaking with Ralph at the same time about Scott, and there's great history there at the Iridium.
Yes.
Which is this famous jazz club in New York. So
and Ralph brought us to the Iridium the first time we played New York, and
wow.
And so I know Scott was there when we played there. This was some years ago, but it's just a history. It's like a musical trove of history.
And this is the way I look at it, because I do believe in like so many different worlds out there and so many different planes that we exist on. Someone like a Ralph. Oh, there's you at the Iridium. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. With Sheila Jordan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, Ralph had some deep relationships with people, with artists and musicians, and he invited Sheila to be on the show, and she came and she sang with us. So gracious.
Cool.
So gracious. And Bob Duro showed up too. He's my buddy. He's not with us anymore either. And the Schoolhouse Rock jazzer Bob Duro. So
wow.
Yeah. It was a wonderful night.
I know. What's so beautiful about videotaping things, that people live on forever. There's just, when I first moved to the city.
And recordings, Maria.
Yeah. Oh my God.
It's like our legacy.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what? Many years ago, my therapist said something that I never forgot, and I like to share it with other recording artists. She said, what you folks have that nobody else has is the luxury of having your highest self archived. And I love that, because she said, most people that do great things, nobody ever sees it. They're either in their office doing some great work, or like a nurse or a doctor, an EMT that saves a life, a lifeguard, or whatever it is. They do this amazing work and nobody ever sees it, right? But as songwriters, as recording artists or filmmakers, we get the opportunity to have our best stuff forever archived. And I don't take that for granted, So
that's an amazing opportunity that you can't take it for granted.
Yeah.
And I think what we need to do is to never stop writing, never stop performing, never stop doing our art. That's what we're here for, I guess.
Absolutely.
That's part of our purpose in life.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've had this conversation as well with other musicians where they say, one of our friends I ran into recently, he's a bass player, great bass player. He said, "Oh, my wife keeps asking me when I'm going to retire." He's like, "Musicians don't retire."
Musicians
No, and I love that. It's like, it's the best job in the world because it's what we've always wanted to do. And especially, most musicians I know wanted to do that when they were kids, and like we get to do it even now, and this part of our life, which brings me to some of the different songs that you write. I love your songs, but I particularly love them because they're very reflective of a life, right? So I love something, a piece of work that can look down at what someone has done and just take a moment and appreciate it. And I get that from your music. It's like you've lived, you've seen what you've seen, you're writing about it, but now as you're singing about it, you're also enjoying, you're just living in the moment and the reality of where you're at. And I think that's not everybody stays present that way.
Well, that's an interesting subject because I've been thinking about that a lot more, since the pandemic and since all of the time we've had to think about things.
Right.
And the songs that I've written, my original music, I tell stories with my songs. I'd like to think I do. And I thought, am I living that? Am I living what I'm writing about?
Wow.
Something that I did at I just did a big CD release party at the Green Mill in Chicago, the great jazz club in Chicago, the Green Mill. And I went back to some of my other records instead of just doing everything from Accidental Melody, the new album.
Right.
And I went back and I sang the title tracks from all of my original records. And
interesting.
And yeah, it was an interesting thing to do, to reflect upon. And the first video that we released on YouTube is a song from an album I did in 2011 called As You Spend Your Life.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking about those lyrics, do the charity and it makes you whole as you spend your life.
Oh, I love it. I love this.
And so that's what I'm talking about. There's the video. Leo's got it up on.
I love it. Leo, thank you. Beautiful.
Yeah.
And listen to that guitar. Oh, my God.
Yeah. So,
see the pyramids on the lonely shore. Hear the beckoning of a distant soul.
Beautiful. Oh, my God.
Do the charity and it makes you whole as you spend your life, as you spend your life, as you spend your life.
And my friend doing sign language.
I love that. So you're pulling everyone in,
Well,
Thanks, Leo.
I often, when I perform, I'll have a special guest. I've had dancers, and this time I thought I want to do something. I got to think out of the box.
Yeah.
And Claire Johnson has been a friend of mine again for over 40 years, and we've worked together with her sign language singing.
Wow.
She calls what she does sign language singing, because she's really interpreting the lyrics in a very musical and almost like a dance on stage.
Right.
And it really, I think the audience really dug it. I think it was very enthralling. It was very special to have her doing the signing that evening. It was great because she's beautiful.
And Joanie, your audience, does it tend to be like a following of people, or does it tend to, is it new people that float in and out, other musicians? What does your audience look like?
Well, I think you would know this from performing over the years, and you probably have your special places you perform and you like to sing at.
Yeah.
But I think I have a base of people that enjoy jazz, that enjoy original music, that are open-minded, that like going to the Green Mill. So it's a mix, it's friends, it's other musicians, artists on our label showed up, which did my heart so much good to see other musicians there. And, friends from the neighborhood, the bar across the street. We just had a good mix of really fun, supportive people.
And the Green Mill, I don't know anything about. So how many does it seat? Is it an intimate? Is it like the Iridium?
No, it's not as big as the Iridium. I would say Green Mill seats about, I don't know, maybe 100, 125, 150.
That's a good amount of
cram
people
in there, But it's one of the oldest, maybe in Chicago. It's a classic, real Chicago jazz club. Pay your money at the door, no credit cards.
Oh, I love that.
It's fun. It's a really, really nice place. The owner, Dave Gemolo, has been very, very generous and very gracious to let us come in. I like going there on a Sunday afternoon. Seems like my fans, I don't know, maybe because we're maturing in our lives. They don't want to go out at midnight, 10 o'clock midnight. So we've got a nice group. Yeah, there's the Green Mill calendar. And he's got all Chicago people. He'll bring in national acts as well. We were talking about my good friend and guitar legend, George Freeman, of the Chicago Freeman family of great musicians. And George plays there once a year on his birthday. This April, he turned 96 years old.
Wow.
How about that? And Dave...
That's fantastic.
Dave flies in Bernard Purdy to play drums for George's gig, which is amazing. And we just have the best time. Yeah.
I mean, I'm just... musicians blow my mind. I think the musicians are the best people. It's
this
just...
is the record we did a few years ago on Southport called Everybody Say Yeah. George
loves
Freeman.
this.
Yeah.
Listen to this. This is great.
Yeah, it's a compilation of all the records we did on Southport for George, and with a couple of new tracks and unreleased tracks.
And is that also on your label, Joan?
Yeah, that's on Southport Records. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I would encourage everybody, I mean, of course, follow Joanie, but the Southport Records that represents all these artists, go and check it out. I mean, you have to, you wouldn't run out of artists to listen to or follow or buy CDs, I mean, I love it. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, and George is still doing great. I mean, he just released another record on High Note Records called The Good Life. It just came out. He's 96.
Isn't
like
that
you were saying,
incredible?
we have to keep doing this forever, as long as we can.
Yeah, you have to. And I want to also shout out Rick Sudi Caritas, who's a friend of ours, who's also a songwriter. He tends to write really funny stuff, which I love his stuff, and especially his Christmas album was amazing. Now I know Christmas is 6 months away, but as it gets closer, or just go and check him out as well. That's another thing. So see, there's a writer that writes funny stuff. I mean, writes ballads too, but a lot of funny stuff. And then there's just so much to listen to. There's so much to appreciate. And like you said, like we just keep going, right? So to me, artists are like, it's like the ocean. It's just like there's always something happening.
That's nice.
And from that wave and from those ripples, other things happen, like we inspire each other. I always find that, like when I work with kids sometimes and I want to get them to draw and they're like, man, I don't know what to draw. I'll just put on some music. And then they're chatting a little bit. I'll put up a few chips maybe. And then the next thing they're just listening to the music and drawing something. And I try to switch the music up just to see if it changes their mood. These are little kids, I try to do that.
That's great. That's a great idea.
Yeah, or I say, what are you listening to this music? What does it look like? What does this music look like in your mind?
Wow.
And all of a sudden they start to draw little things, So I think that's really cool. Let's check in with some of our people. Liz Goldenberg says, Mazel Tov from the intermission at Hamlet at Shakespeare in the Park. Hi, Liz. I know. And Lynn Portis really appreciated the comment, the luxury of having your highest self archived. Yeah, that's what musicians, I just find in recording artists, we get to do. Barbara Cavallo is watching. Oh my God, wait a minute. Barbara Cavallo is the person that said that. And she very rarely watches the show because we're on different schedules. But
oh, wow.
How crazy. I'm listening because I have to look at my phone too for another site that we're on. So Barbara Cavallo, I was quoting you tonight. Thank you, sweetheart, for saying that about being archived, your highest self being archived. Remember you said that because, a good therapist once told me you have your lowest self, you have your, your human self that you're there, and then you have your highest self, right? And in your highest self is usually when you're in the most spiritual state of mind. And that's musicians, we're recording at that point, or we're playing, or and we get that luxury of vibrating at that highest level a lot. So I don't take that for granted. So Barbara, there you are. Thank you, my friend. John De Palma is watching us. John De Palma is amazing, absolutely stunning singer. Stunning. And he's a guy you want singing your songs. Thanks for tuning me into Joanie's stuff and point of view. Yes, well, you are welcome. So Joanie, you should look up John De Palma because I think the two of you would be fast friends. He's a local guy. He's a New York guy. He's a beautiful voice. You would love it.
Hi, John.
So now, Joanie, what's happening? You just released Accidental Melody, and are you going to be playing anywhere soon that people can see you or hear you? Or
I'll be honest with you, Maria. I don't really perform that often. It's funny, but I like recording. I love recording. My husband and I are always working on projects here at our studio and at our home. I do like doing special projects. I was hoping to go to New York this fall, and Ralph and I were working on that actually the day before he passed. We had a long conversation about it. So that's something. But coming up at the end of August is the Chicago Jazz Festival, which I didn't get booked on. They missed their opportunity.
There you go.
And you know what? But the last night of the festival is Sunday, September 3rd, and we're going to have an after the fest party at our local bar across the street called Lang's.
Oh, great.
In Chicago, yeah. So it'll be a jam session. Sparrow will bring his keyboard over and a sound system, and all the musicians can stop by after the Jazz Fest, and we'll also do a little celebration for Ralph Lampkin that evening. So that's our plan. That's the next really big show. Who said that?
Okay, so Danielle, who is our friend,
Sullivan.
happens to be a spiritual medium, and she's she can communicate with the other side, and she's a healer. She's amazing. Lots of us have had sessions with Danielle. She says, so Leo just asked, hey, Danielle, is Ralph around perhaps? And Danielle says, Ralph apparently plays with papers or sheet music since you asked, Leo. So he's playing with papers and sheet music somewhere.
Oh,
I know.
Adorable.
Isn't that? I don't know. I don't know. I feel very. I feel like there's something very mystical going on with Ralph, because we all kind of talked to him a day or two before.
Yeah.
You know, like, it's crazy. And, you know, I thought, like, wow, you talk about a life where you are doing the work you love, and you just keep doing it till your last day. And it didn't feel like a burden coming from him, like when he was talking music, and he loved his clients so much, and he believed in his clients. And that's what, it's contagious, you know, when someone believes in you, then other people are like, oh yeah, what was that? I want to know about that person. So shout out to Ralph. And, you know, Ralph, you are always welcome to vibrate around this show. We will always feel you and bring it up. And thank you, Danielle, for helping us out with that. When papers move around, no, he is still, okay, so she says, and she doesn't waste words. She's not someone to just throw stuff out there. When papers move around, no, he is still influencing. Okay, wow. Good to know. Now, Joan, we're going towards the end of our show here. What are some words of, I always ask people to, because most of the people that watch our show are very creative people. And as we all know, being in this business or being in the world of being creative can sometimes be taxing on the soul and very easy to just want to throw the towel in. Or sometimes people get writer's block, or, you know, they hit dark periods where they don't want to do anything. So what's some kind of words of encouragement you would give people to just kind of just keep paddling? What would you say?
Oh, well, you know, I think that happiness is something that comes from inside of you. My wish for everyone is to find that place of peace and happiness. I think being creative helps you get there. Whatever that creativity is, whether it's doing doodles on a piece of paper, scribbling out a lyric, humming a song, or going to a performance and being an audience member and appreciating and enjoying what you're hearing, or a movie like you're talking about. It's just be peaceful, find that place, take deep breaths, listen to what's going on around you in the world. I think that's important, because a lot of people, I think I touched on that before, don't listen. You need to have open ears and an open mind. Everything's so mixed up these days. It's such a divisive world that if you can find it in yourself to listen, have big ears and listen and be receptive.
I love that. And you know, it's funny that you said the world being so divided, because I feel the same exact thing. I feel like my wish is this. My wish is that we would just turn off the television for a little while as a world, and then we could all just break bread and listen to music. Like, I always think, what would that be like? Like we used to do when we were kids. You know, before we were just tuned into everything outside of ourselves. We hung out together a lot. We hung out on corners. We hung out in fields. We hung out in cars, and we talked for hours. And I love that. We would pull up to drive-in movies or whatever it was. It was just something that we were doing together. There was a lot of togetherness.
You know, I have a best friend since the first grade. Her name's Joyce Grace.
I love that.
And she came up from Ohio. I'm from Ohio originally. We've been best friends forever. And she came up to the Green Mill to my party, that was so important to me to have my best friend there, and to know how much she loves me and I love her, and to have that support through the years, that's such a rare thing.
It really is. And you know what? As you're saying that, and then we have talked about Ralph, I want to leave the audience with this tonight. Is, you know, and what John De Palma just said, amen, Maria, get your faces out of your screens and interact. If there are so many great, like your friend, your best friend who comes and supports you, and I have people like that in my life too, that are just like, I just did a show in Boston in May, a birthday show, and I have people from like all different parts of my life. You know, my friends from childhood, friends from shows I did, but those people meant so much to me. And same thing with you. It means so much that people are in your corner. So this is what I'm going to throw out to everybody out there, whether you're a performer or not. Also be an amazing audience member. Also be an amazing supportive friend that supports other artists, whether you're in the business or not. Like, let's make a pact tonight to start listening to each other's music more, to start promoting each other more, to start finding joy in other people's art as well, and not competing, but lifting each other up and sharing that bright light. Because one of the things, like I was telling you, I love musicians so much. Like, I'll take a musician over an actor any day of the week. And nothing bad against actors, because I have actor friends too. I just love and prefer musicians because we tend to not so much compete, but like, oh yeah, I want to play with you, or you want to go listen to this guy? He's so great, or they're down at this club, right, Leo? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah. There were nights at the Duplex when you were bartending in, and whoever was playing behind, it was Billy or Darius, or or Will, and they would bring up the group to sing. Hey, why don't we do this number together? And it could be Hallelujah, it could be Sister Act 2, but we were all together and nobody was judging. We were all saying, can you do this part? Can you do that part? Let's all do it together. And it sounded great.
Right.
And it was just spur of the moment, but we were all together doing it. And that was the fun part.
Yeah.
You can't do that. You can't necessarily do that with a Shakespeare.
I know. But I do, and I respect that. Please, no offense to actresses at all. I just really love musicians and how we can the way we all just kind of come together.
Well, it's funny because it's not a competition.
No.
It's a beautiful sharing experience to create music together with other musicians.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's sharing.
It's sharing and vibration, and it's very important and special. And so, piggybacking on what Joan was saying, keep writing, even if it's the smallest thing on a piece of paper. Like, if I hear a line, and I'm like, you know what? Like today, I was just all day. Somebody would say something, and I would turn to my friend and say, okay, now that's a great song. That would be a great
song. I do that too, yeah.
Yeah.
I just heard a story about Loretta Lynn meeting with Elvis Costello, and they were going to write songs together.
Really?
And, she also wrote with Jack White as well. She walked into the room with this big old bag. She dumped it out, and it was scribbles and lines and notebooks, and she said, where you want to start, darling? And just ideas.
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. When Susan Campanero and I, one of my great friends, and I teach together at the center, and if we happen to get, because it's a walk-in, you can walk into any class, and you come in, you're going to be part of the class. But lots of times they're really shy, or they're like, I don't play an instrument, I don't read, I don't write, we're like, okay, so then that's when we go to poetry, right? And one of the things that Susie and I do is we just give them a little piece of paper, like a small, like this, and say, okay, just put a thought on there, whatever comes to your mind, any thought, and then just fold it, and then we put it in the hat, and then we pull it out in no particular order, and we make a poem out of it, and it's like mind-blowing.
That's great.
Great. It's amazing. So
it's the creative spark.
Yeah, and it's just
you're giving people an opportunity to have that spark.
Right, and we may never see that group of kids again. But in that way, I always take a picture of it when I line it up. Then I take a picture of it as a whole, and I'm like, that's our poem. Leo, that's a great because Leo works with kids. I bet your little guys could do something like that.
I'm getting there.
Yeah. Dee says there's a wonderful movie about Loretta Lynn and Patsy Cline on Netflix. Loretta also had a lot of love for ghosts, apparently. Really? She did several documentaries about her haunted farm. Oh, I'll have to check that out. That is really, really, really cool. I love that. Okay. Well, our time as a group has come to an end, our journey for tonight. But now we are connected. So, Joanie, you are always welcome back. And we hope that you'll stay in touch with our show. And if you ever have anything you want to let us know about, just share it on my page or the show page, and we'll get it out there. We'll promote it. Okay, so
Can I say this real quick about Barbie?
Of course.
Okay. When I was young, I had all the Barbie stuff, the dream house, everything. This must have been like 7th grade. I sold everything and bought a clarinet.
Wow.
I got $75.
That's a lot.
I know. I had a lot of stuff.
Wow, but you got a clarinet.
Yeah.
And did you play it?
Yeah.
I
played it all through high school.
Oh my God, that's a great story. That is a great story. Okay,
Barbie,
you see?
clarinet, Barbie.
Yeah, but to someone, those Barbie, and we just move stuff around, right? But that instrument made a huge difference in your life.
Well, I mean, look at your office. That definitely is a musician. No Barbies at all.
Right, I love that. I love people. When I walk into someone's home, that's the first thing I look at is like their records and their books. I always am like, and I kind of miss that. Like I'm a big fan of audiobooks, so I listen to quite a few books. So I don't collect like I used to have these huge bookshelves. So and same thing with CDs. I still have so many, and I have so many under my bed and all that.
Oh my goodness! I had to digitize all that, but move across the country a couple times. You're like, all right,
yeah.
I know, but you can always tell a lot about a person by their books and their music.
What was your good CD? Like when you were a kid, the CD or album, the one that you treasured. Do you still have it? Like what was it, Joanie and Marie, or what? What was your?
You mean for me or Joanie?
Both of you.
For me, it would have to be the Beatles.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That was like early. Wow, my brother brought home that Meet the Beatles record, and even my mom and I, we were like, wow, what is this? I want to hold your hand.
Right. Rubber Soul. I loved Rubber Soul. That of all the Beatles albums, I loved Rubber Soul.
Yeah.
And of course the White Album. We were all like, oh my God, what's happening there?
Oh yeah.
But for me, it was Goodbye Yellow Brick Road by Elton John. That folded out, and all the lyrics were there. And
my uncle had that album. I used to love looking at that cover.
My God. And Stevie Wonder's Fulfilling This First Finale. Anything Stevie did, I was on it that day. I bought it that day. I waited in line. But that particular album, for some reason, and Talking Book, I loved. I loved it. And like Songs in the Key of Life. Yeah. Anything like that. Those double albums were amazing to me.
See, now I grew up in the time of cassettes.
Yeah.
So my first treasured cassettes were Huey Lewis and the News, sports.
Yeah.
Love that album. Oh, yeah. Cyndi Lauper.
All right. Fun.
I love Cyndi Lauper.
Yeah, Cyndi Lauper. I love her. And Footloose, the soundtrack.
See, but you remember them. You remember that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Isn't that fun?
And they're all in my playlists. They're all like.
And you know what I would say because I ran a writers group during COVID, a women's writers group, so I would give out prompts every week. But if I were running that group tonight, this would be my prompt to you. Go through it quickly. Now, don't overthink it. Look at your record collection. Pull down a CD. Just pop it on. Don't think it over. And see what comes of just playing that. Where do you go? What year do you go to? What event? What relationship? Write as much stream of consciousness as you can from that one. Just pick one album. And even if it's one song in that one album. And see what happens. It's mind-blowing. What music will bring you right back. And then we have to go. But Tony Bennett, they said that he suffered from Alzheimer's the last few years of his life, but he never forgot one single lyric because the songs were locked in.
Yep.
And
Stevie Nicks.
Pretty cool, right? 1982, Stevie Nicks, Belladonna. See, that's what John De Palma says. Pencil at
Maria.
Yeah.
Show me your tuna tata.
We usually do a food section. Tonight I did not cook because I was in Boston yesterday, and drove back at 4 a.m. And then I had a staff meeting at the duplex, and then I came to Judy's house. But I'm back on the keto, and what am I enjoying from Sushi Cruise in Edgewater? A delicious tuna tartare. That's what I'm going to enjoy tonight. And then I'm going to have some cantaloupe. I'm back on it.
Is that avocado underneath that?
Yeah, avocado underneath. I wish I had put it in a plate, but Judy just brought it down. Some radishes. Here's some ponzu sauce that's going to go on that. A little spicy mayo. I love a good tuna tartare. So, but amazing. Usually, Joanie, next time you come on and watch the show, we always cook. I usually have an entree, a salad, and a dessert.
You're making me hungry.
I know. We always do it. It's bad. So, anyway, we want to thank you, Joanie. If you want to find Joanie's records, you want to Accidental Melody is the latest release. Joanie Pallatto. That's Pallatto.
2 L's.
2 L's. Oh, 2 L's. Okay, sorry. Thank you. Pallatto. And it's South ChicagoSound.com. Go to that. And our episodes all go to Spotify, Spreaker, and iHeartRadio in podcasts. But you will always be able to find our shows on our YouTube channel, or What's the Story with Maria YouTube channel, as well as on our Facebook pages. Joanie, thank you so much for taking the time to join us. And it's just been a pleasure.
Thank you, Maria. I loved it. Thank you so much. And I'm glad to get to know you better, and I want to get to know you even more.
Yes, and we will. Our paths have crossed now. And Leo, how do we say thank you to Leo, who pulls up all our stuff, does all his homework, and makes us feel safe. So thank you, Leo Rodriguez. Thank you, everybody. Come back every Tuesday, 9 p.m. Eastern. We love and appreciate you. Thank you so much.